Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a Public Works podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today I got a real treat for you. Her name is Margaret Medellin, and she is the Chief Public Works Officer for the City and County of Denver in beautiful Colorado. Margaret, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, hello, Joseph. Wonderful to see you, and hello to all your listeners. Again, I am coming to you from the beautiful but very cold today, Denver, Colorado.
Sure. And you also said you have a working title. It's like a secondary title. You're the Deputy Manager for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure at City and County of Denver.
That's right. It's a mouthful, but here in Denver, we have almost 12,000 people that work for the city.
Wow,
So,
12,000.
yeah, big organization. And I work at the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Okay.
Uh, Fondly known as Dottie. And we've got about 1,200 folks that work here. And we have about 5 deputy managers. So we do have the head of Dottie reports directly to the mayor. Amy Ford is currently the head of Dottie. And so I'm one of the deputy managers, and I oversee the Public Works Administration. And
All
so
right.
that's got water, wastewater, solid waste, green infrastructure, all the fun and cool stuff.
Yeah.
About 400 people in the administration.
Wow. Look at you. Look at you. 12,000 down to 400. That's your sandbox you playing every day. Speaking of playing, what does give us a 30,000 foot view of what Margaret is over, what you do, and then also walk us through a random Tuesday of a day in the life of Margaret Medellin.
All right. Well, one thing that I love about Public Works is you never know what the day is going to hold. You have an idea, but somewhere within this city, there is some chaos going on somewhere and that we need to attend to. So my particular world is the world of our wastewater group. So that's, the team that takes care of all of our wastewater collection pipes, our lift stations, also our stormwater collection system. We've got a really fun group here, the Green Infrastructure team, that's really looking at implementing, what are these ways that we can incorporate nature into our system to clean runoff before it gets back into the Platte River. And then I also have the awesome solid waste team, which is just, this is a team that covers the entire city at least 2 times a week, and in some cases 3, because our solid waste team picks up trash, recycle, and then also compost. And that's a program that we're really rolling out now citywide. So there are a lot of moving pieces and just a lot of really dedicated professionals taking care of, all the things that you don't think about until they're not working.
Right. We'll definitely get into that. All right. Let's say I wave my wand and you're the focus of a reality TV show. So what would you say, for the viewer's pleasure, what would you say is the most juicy, fun, exciting, extravagant that you would want depicted in a reality TV show of Margaret's, day in the life at work, or year in the, day in the year at work?
Boy, a reality show. Wow, we've certainly got enough drama. I think we could have some really fun episodes. There's a lot that goes into collecting trash and recycling compost, and I think people are really really passionate about their trash, and that is the department I hear the most from in the community. Um, you know, of course, a lot of times it's, my trash was missed or, what. But I also get a lot of really, really awesome calls from people thanking me about things that our folks are doing out in the field. We had one instance where a lady was, for some reason, her fence was falling over, and the our teams got out there and totally, they've got busy days. This was not part of their day, but they actually saw her out there struggling and helped her put this fence up, and it stories like that are happening
Yeah.
all over the city, and I love hearing them. So I think if we had, uh, you know, someone following us and catching some of that stuff, and of course we also have, the other side of things with, people throwing things they're not supposed to be and recycle or compost, and we've actually got auditors and inspectors out there, and um,
Yeah.
they catch that, they're going to come talk to you about it.
I want to hear more about this composting thing. I know recycle, I know just regular trash, refuse, but talk to us about the composting portion that you spoke of.
So this is a program that historically in Denver was a subscription only program. We had um, a really a small number of people in Denver that were really passionate about composting. And as we've started to look at our diversion rates here in Denver, and the diversion rate really is how much of material can you move away from the landfill and send either to recycle or compost. And what our professionals are telling us is out of a cart, a typical, let's say waste cart in Denver, everyone, everything all in, what you need to get rid of, about 25% of that material would be trash. So rightfully going to the landfill. About 25% is recycle material that we can salvage and take to the recycle facilities. About 50% of that is compost.
Wow,
So,
50%.
so really a waste stream that we're really trying to focus on capturing and diverting that to our compost facilities, where we can then turn it into a soil additive and bring it back in into a more useful life.
Yeah, I like it. That's 50%. I would have never guessed that number. I thought it would have been like 15, 20%. Because when I take out the trash, usually in the white bag in the kitchen, you're right. It's a lot of food in there that me or the kids didn't eat. We threw it away, and the rest is sometimes trash. And yeah, you're right. Wow.
Well, and they measure it by weight. So if you think about it, that
That's a good
compost
point.
really weighs a lot, and some of it is, so in our commercial compost facilities, we can compost bones, we can compost meat, and things that maybe you wouldn't want to do in your backyard composting pile.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they're really, and of course here in the spring and summer and fall, we've got a lot of yard waste that goes into that compost.
Gotcha. All right, let's take a stroll down memory lane.
Ooh,
I know you didn't wake up yesterday and pop into the director of public works position. So tell us about 15-year-old Margaret. Were you interested in public works or public service? And give us a brief how you got to where you're at today.
15-year-old Margaret. Wow. That was back in the 80s. So, I mean, my hair is big now, but I think it's probably even bigger
It
then.
was big. I love those 80s pictures. Yeah.
So I think so. My background, I'm a civil engineer, and so I was a real nerd in high school. Loved math, uh, loved science and chemistry, and really loved architecture. And so I went into civil engineering, and really the thing about civil engineering is it kind of blends a lot of those different disciplines. You get to do math, but then you also get to look at all the things that build cities and build community. So really started my path in public works as an engineer, and that kind of the thing you learn quickly as a civil engineer, especially. Um, there's a whole lot of our work that has nothing to do with engineering. you know, you want to implement a project, you better have political support, you better have
Wow.
community support, and you got to figure out how you're going to fund it.
Yeah.
And, so really, I then went back to school and got my MPA. So that's a master's in public administration as opposed to an MBA. But, because really recognizing that to be successful in the work we do, we have to come at it in collaboration with a lot of other people.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. Would you say that all the positions that you had along the way kind of led up into you being in the position you're at now? And then would you advise one, let's say when they're fresh out of college, they're working on getting their PE, would you advise they go to the public route, go to the private route? How can they make their way up to being, the county in Denver public works director, in so many years?
So I started my career in the private sector. I was a consultant right out of school, and it was a really a wonderful education, and I think really opened my eyes to, what does it really take to make a project go from, someone's concept to actually, a real policy or project in the ground. So I really, in my career, I've really appreciated that I've moved back and forth between public and private, because I think you learn different things as you're doing each one. And ultimately, we have to learn what the other side is doing so that we can work better together. And the thing I've always appreciated when I'm in the private sector, so I've worked for a few cities over the course of my career, and you get to know the problems of that city. Like, you wake up that morning, you've got the same problems you had a year ago. Like, they don't ever leave, but you know them intimately. But when you're a consultant, you kind of come in, and you have more of a knowledge of like what's going on in the industry, and you can bring in, what did Portland do? What did Boston do? And really work as kind of that pollinator in the industry. So they're both fun. I learned a lot on both sides. I would say though, really getting to understand the industry and getting connected in the industry is probably the best way to really grow, I think, in your career.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. My next question was going to be skill sets. Let's say a youngster asks you, Margaret, what is the main skill set they should pick up to be successful at what you currently do? What would that skill set be?
I think it would really be come down to how well can you work in a team, and really being able to organize multiple parties with different objectives, and ultimately coming together with one project or one policy. So I think just that concept of you're not working alone. And sometimes, back in my early days as a engineer, if I was designing a pump station or a pipeline, I could go back to my office, head down. I didn't need, you know, didn't need to talk to a lot of people figuring out, what diameter pipe we needed. But I think as you start to work on bigger projects and community objectives, you really need to learn how to work together. And I would also sprinkle into that just developing that sense of curiosity, because you're really going to find as you get into a project, an initiative, you need to ask the right questions, because it's never as simple as it looks when you first walk into it.
That is true. That is true. All right. So we all been through adversity in life, but the reason why I asked this next question is because there's others out there who are listening to this episode and they want to know what Margaret might have been through and how she got through it. So give me a story of when something that went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Yes. Well, definitely our things that don't go like we want them to are not fun, but they're definitely the way we learn and grow and make projects better. So, I'll talk to one that is kind of near and dear to my heart right now. We've talked about it a little bit already, but it is how we expanded our solid waste services here in Denver. And we had a lot of ambitions, and really the way we work as a city, the mayor and the administration really set the direction. Where do we want to go? We've got council that also helps setting direction and passing ordinances. And one thing that we've really been focused on here in Denver is projects that are going to be greener, projects that are going to help some of our climate initiatives. And so we went all in on, hey, we've got to get people to divert more. And so we went all in. We want to bring compost to the whole city. We want to do recycle. I mean, big, big initiatives. And it was too much. It was too much. And, that was, I think, a painful lesson to learn. And I'll also say that the world post-COVID is very different. As, I'm sure everyone knows, things like getting the trucks we need to run an expanded service. The timeline's different than it was when we first put our plans on paper. The cost of doing business is much, much greater than pre-COVID when we first had all our great ideas. So, what ended up happening is we were not able to complete routes on time. Last year was a painful year for us. And we had to come to a point where we had to reset. And, which is never a fun thing. It's not a politically popular thing to do, to say we're going to back up a bit. I think it was the right thing for us to do. And what we did is we took a pause and we said, we need to better align our ambitions with the resources we currently have. So we did change our service to providing recycle every other week instead of every week. Continue to provide trash every week. Obviously, that is going to be a priority. And then compost, we're going to continue the expansion. So we're expanding to the whole city. We've been going we have solid waste districts, and we've been going district by district. And we're just, this month, we're expanding to the whole city. And compost will be weekly, but it was too much. And frankly, that was a painful lesson, a painful time to go through. But I think the realization of, sometimes you need to pause and reassess.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. That pause is huge, because I'm sure a lot of people out there like, man, we're burning the candle on both ends. We're not keeping up. We're going down this slippery slope. How can we pause? How can we, call that time out and say, let's reorganize, figure it out. And to be honest, I think the recycle every other week is genius. It can work if everybody breaks down their boxes. Nobody breaks down their boxes anymore.
That's exactly it. And, previous to the pandemic, we did provide recycle every other week. We're kind of going back to, what we had done before. But I think that period where we provided it weekly, we kind of let people get in the bad habits.
Spoil them. Yeah.
And I've asked the team, when you see those trash or the recycle bins, are they full of broken down boxes? They're not. I mean, even our director admitted he didn't break his boxes down. So
I would say the week after Thanksgiving and Christmas, those are the times where I probably need recycling every week, because so many boxes and stuff for the kids and toys and all that. But Amazon, right? Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. All right, so you've been at this for some time. You've gotten to the point of your career where you can kind of look back holistically and introspectively and say, you know what, I came somewhere. I can look back at the mountaintop. But I want to know, how does Margaret continue to stay? How do you continue to show up better and better and better? What's your personal and even professional development regimen like?
So I love that question, and I'll tell you, I don't feel like I'm on a mountaintop. Feels like I'm getting, buried in the valley. But I think it is great to stop and reflect and to give time for that, because it definitely, there are a lot of water under the bridge. So one thing I really like to do, especially on a time when I need to re-energize, is I like to go to some of my favorite spots around Denver. Whether it's, there's a park with a great view of the mountains, or, a coffee shop by the Capitol, or, a bar downtown where we get the skyline view. So I like to sometimes go to those spaces to remember why I love this city, and why I keep doing what I do. So, that's something that I do if I need to get re-energized, for a particular day or a particular meeting. I'll also tell you the thing that has been so impactful in my career that I've been really blessed to be a part of the last few years is APWA's Emerging Leaders Academy. And this is just um, a tremendous group of people that have come together over the years. And I'm one of the instructors on the team, really fortunate to be a part of a really great instructor team. And really the top emerging leaders in public works across the country, and also in Canada, are selected through a pretty vigorous selection process and come together to work for about not quite a year. It's probably about 9 or 10 months. But we start off with a retreat back in Kansas City at APWA headquarters. Really digging into topics around leadership, topics around public works, and getting really building this network. And right now, I think we are on the 18th year, I think, in APWA, this ELA groups,
Wow.
the 18th cohort. So we've got this really big network across the country of people who have come together to talk about leadership. And for me, it's just so energizing to be able to take that time to talk about these topics. And I'll tell you, every time, even though I've been through it a few years now, every time we bring up a topic about risk management or the fear of failure, or whatever the topic may be, I always learn something. And I'll tell you, these emerging leaders, man, Joseph, we're in good hands. We have got
Right.
tremendous leaders out there coming up.
You know what? It's interesting. I didn't really when I first heard about emerging leaders, I'm like, oh, okay, another blah 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 blue blue for the younger generation. And then I started meeting the people who were parting emerging who were part of emerging leaders. And I'm thinking like all these people, they like get it. Get it meaning they want to leave the industry better than they found it. They're not the people that come in, want to extract X amount of capital and then ride off into the sunset and don't care about the next generation. From the instructors, even the students, whether I have them on an interview or even meet them at a trade show or just kind of hear about them, I'm like, oh, these people are my people. They're cool people. They again, they want to leave the industry better than they found it. And I'm thinking like, what, how can we make that infectious for the rest of the industry? Not saying, we all have bad apples. I mean, but there's a sense of those emerging leader, your cohorts that keep coming through year after year. It's some good people, and I applaud you for that. And I applaud whoever puts it together and selects the emerging leaders, because you guys do a great job.
I absolutely agree 100%. And I think the magic is in the selection process, because every cohort I've met, and as you say, I meet someone and they say they were part of the program, and it's like, wow, all
Yeah,
right, this is someone who, they're going to have a passion about what they do, and they're in it for the community. Really kind of that selfless service, which I think is so important in the public works world that we work in. Because if you're in it, if you're in it to get rich, it's probably not the place to do it. If you're in it for some self-glory, this is probably not the thing to do, because we work behind the scenes. And, a lot of the work that we do, if things are going great, like, the mayor's going to look good, council's going to look good, like other people are going to look good. Like when we pop up on the newspapers when something goes wrong, and
yeah.
that's just
What did
part
you do?
of it. Yeah. So I think, really, people who are doing things from a good place.
Yeah.
And so you're right, you nailed it. And that's definitely been a wonderful, um, wonderful new addition to kind of my annual workload, and
Yeah.
I just love it.
As if you're not busy enough, I'm sure. Let's say you're out at the park, or like you said, you hit one of your local love spots in in the Denver area. Somebody walks up to you. They say, what do you do? You know, that question that we always get at a dinner party, cocktail party, whatever. They ask, what do you do? And I hate that question, but I get it. That's how you kind of, you get to know somebody. So what would you say after you tell them what you do? What do you think that they think? What are some of the common misconceptions about what Margaret does?
Oh, first of all, I find it interesting that some people don't, because my world revolves around wastewater, infrastructure, water, stormwater, you know, waste collection. I'm always a little bit like surprised when I meet someone who's like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a department that did that."
Yeah.
Um, so it's there are, and which I think um, if people aren't thinking about us, that's a lot of times a good thing because it means things are just running smoothly. And um, but it is interesting a lot of times when if I'm out and someone um, hears that I work for the solid waste team, then I'm hearing all kinds of stuff about, you know, why can't you collect my bin here? Or, can't we have a dumpster? Or, so there's a lot of talk around, can we do things differently? And, I actually really love that. I really, we do our work for the community, and where we are really, I think where we really feel that we're doing our best is when we're hearing from the community that we're doing a good job. So we want to hear it, we want to hear, um, but yeah, I as soon as someone hears I have a connection on the solid waste team, then um, usually there's lots of thoughts and opinions around recycle, around collection bins, around, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of community feedback, let's imagine everybody in the city and county of Denver is listening to this episode. What would you say for the operators out there will be the most impactful pat on the back? I know we talked a lot about, thankless job and nobody really noticing until something goes wrong. I like to bring a highlight on them being first responders. So what would you say to those out there? Like, it could be them bringing them donuts, bringing them coffee. What would you say is the most impactful pat on the back for those in public works out in the field right now?
I love that question, and I think, the thing that it just I think brings the most joy is just tell them you appreciate them. Um, Call up. We have our 311 line here, which is, the information line for the city. And I love it when people call and call to tell us about something great someone did or how helpful someone was. And so, yeah, I think that giving an accolade, because, we get a lot of, you know, uh, complaints. We get a lot of people wanting us to do things differently. And we, collect those, we go through the comments with the team. And it's awesome when we're having that review, if we can also talk about some of the great things that people in our community saw. And, one thing I know that, and I don't know if they did this in other communities, but here in Denver during the pandemic, when, if we remember those early days, which, you know, pretty frightening, we didn't know
Yeah,
how we
we
got,
didn't know. Yeah.
we didn't know anything, but our solid waste team did not miss a beat. They did not miss
Nice.
one day of collecting. And we didn't know how people got this. We didn't know. But what we did know is they were going to every house in Denver, picking up their trash. They were coming in contact with COVID. And this was something that,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but we had to do this. We couldn't just let waste collect in the city. It was part of the selfless work that our teams do, And one thing that I really loved that people were doing is they were write, big thank you letters that they would, on poster board, or, the kids in the chalk on the alleyways, thanking the solid waste team. And, it was a great thing to see, because really our teams were putting, their own lives at risk in this time, not knowing, what the consequences might be. So, I just think showing that appreciation and gratitude to our teams goes a long way.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. One of my soapboxes I stand on is how first responders like fire, PD, EMT, the reason why a lot of youngsters want to be them, or aspire to be them, is because of the uniform. I feel like in public works, we should have our own uniform to be able to show that we're out there and about doing good work, and help keeping the community going. When, of course, if public works wasn't around, nothing would happen. Nothing would get done.
Yeah, I think, really, this notion of public works as first responders, I know that this was something that, um, you know, we often talk about public works being the silent arm of public safety. It's our public works teams that are out there, clearing roadways, you know, when, the our fire departments, our police departments, and our emergency operations centers need assistance. Our public works teams are there, and so I think this notion that they are first responders, that they're the silent arm. This is the team
Yeah,
is going to go out there and get stuff done. And I think, when President George Bush issued this proclamation back in 2003, and it was the Presidential Policy Directive 8. He actually officially recognized public works as first responders. And this all the way back in 2003, we were having this conversation. And I think it's something that, we need to continue to make sure that,
sure.
not only are they recognized, but they're also protections that they can also get as being first responders. Um, and being part of that response community. So I think it's just really great to recognize our public workers who go out there and put themselves in the line of danger, along with our other responders. Really to address dangerous situations, and whatever chaos may arise, which it does,
Yeah,
across the city.
sure, sure. 12,000 employees for the city and county of Denver. It's a lot. A lot of people focus on the aging infrastructure of, in public works, the pipes under the ground, everything's, it's got a 50-year half life, and that was 200 years ago. I like to focus on the aging workforce in our industry. Those who are, you're like 25 years old, but those who are in their 50s and 60s, they're retiring in the next 3 to 5 years. They're taking all that institutionalized knowledge and they're leaving with it. What have you seen out there? You have a pretty good data set. What have you seen that can attract new talent, younger talent, train them, and then also retain them and keep them around?
Yeah, I know that this is something that our industry is really grappling with right now. Is, how are we going to replace ourselves as we're, moving on? And so we have some initiatives here at Dottie where we are really trying to educate some of the younger folks, and really getting in, and even starting at a very young age. There's a program we have here that I love, that um, our solid waste collection operators. And I was one of those kids that loved the garbage truck for whatever reason, and kids love garbage trucks. We have an initiative where we'll go out to a library or to a school, and the operators will take their truck, and they'll also read books. Read a book to the class, or touch the truck. We'll have events where kids can come and interact with our equipment. It's really cool. And so I think getting kids exposed, and to see that this is a path, that this And yeah, there's hard work. It's hard work, but it's also fun and fulfilling. And, I love my days when I'm not sitting at a desk, but out in the field. And, so there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of, um, you know, kind of can fit a lot of different areas you might want to go in your career path. So I think,
Yeah.
part of what we're trying to do is to get kids to start thinking about this as a career path early on, and then, kind of be with them along the way and have internships and, you know, but I think
Yeah.
really we're going to have to be out there and, we have to compete. We have to compete with other, other industries as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like your tactic. It's, you know, at 5 years old, a youngster might get introduced to a garbage truck because he's a guy's reading a book in front of his garbage truck at the local library. But when he's 7 years old, he might see one down the street. When he's 15 years old, he might, interact with another garbage truck. But that seed was planted at 5, and that stayed with that child all the way on. And then when he's 19, he doesn't want to go to the services, doesn't want to go to college. He can work for the city, and now we have a new employee. So, I like your tactics. So, question I always ask is, let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of the city and county of Denver. What ask of your community in regards to public works would you want to put on this billboard?
Boy, putting it on a billboard, I I like to encourage our community to get involved and communicate with us, reach out to us. I think a lot of times there might be a notion that, oh, they're going to do what they want to do. Let's just check in the box to come talk to us. But really, we are constantly evolving. There is no practice that it's like, okay, well, this is the way we do things. We're always going to do it. If we hear, and our community's changing constantly. So we want to grow and change with the community. So if I could put it on a billboard, I think I would, just encourage people to come and talk to us, and bring us your ideas, um, bring us your thoughts. A lot of times I think by the time someone comes to talk to us, they're so frustrated. They've been dealing with something for so long, that they're, come to us, from a place of real frustration. And, I think, if we could somehow figure out a way to talk before you're at that point, um, and come be a part of the solutioning with us, you know. Saying
Yeah.
that though, I think there's also got to be the recognition that we have limited resources and we have a lot of people who want things done their way, and we have to make hard decisions with how we allocate resources. So, I think, I don't know if you can fit all this on a billboard, but
We'll
but
figure out a way.
bring us your ideas and work with us. But that doesn't mean we're going to implement
Yeah.
everything you tell us to.
Yeah. Yeah. You tell my wife that too, for sure. Come to me before the problem's huge when it's small.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey. And then also, I want Margaret to give a word of inspiration and motivation to your fellow public works director counterparts across the nation.
Mentors. What a wonderful topic. I've had tremendous mentors throughout my career, starting with, high school teachers and college professors. And, when I entered this profession, it was, you not something that, maybe a young 15-year-old Margaret would be encouraged to enter public works. I was, the pathway more was towards, doing something a little bit more stereotypical for a woman. But I think nowadays, we're all in, we're here, and we're doing amazing work. So I really want to thank a lot of my mentors. One who's kind of been with me for a lot of the ways is a woman named Mary Gearhart. She was a boss of mine early in my career, went on to become a mentor. And I think a pretty incredible turn of events. She now works for me. She came out of retirement and came back to work for the city, and kind of been a full circle, but just, how we can move in and out of these relationships. But also, just tremendous peers that I work with. The gentleman who hired me here at the city is Ulyss Cleckley. He left Denver to go be the head of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure for Miami. And he was just a tremendous mentor and really brought me into the public works world. So, I think a real special thank you would go out to him.
Sure. Sure. And what do you say to those directors out there right now? They're in the trenches. They're fighting the same battles you're fighting. What do you say to keep them motivated, keep them inspired?
I think we need to make sure that we take care of each other. And those of us who are in the industry, and we know what it's like, we know that there are hard times and you're going to make a decision and maybe not everyone's going to be happy with it. And I would say, just reach out to your fellow public works professionals, be it across the country or, in the neighboring city. I think we need to come together and support each other. And so I would just say to, all my fellow public works professionals out there, you're doing tremendous job. You're doing tremendous jobs out there. And, that's why our cities are so great. It's because of the underlying work that you all do that goes unnoticed. But when I come to your city, I notice. So great work out there.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Margaret, let's say I'm coming to Denver and I text you ahead of time. I say, Margaret, where can I go to get the best burger in Denver? Where are you going to send me?
Well, all right, Joseph, I heard that you have expanded to tacos.
Oh, we got another taco person.
So I'm going to tell you, because I know you've gotten some ideas about places to go for burgers here in Denver.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you where to go to get the best tacos.
Let's hear it.
There's a taco truck, El Consome de Morelos.
One more time.
El Consome de Morelos. And so this is a taco truck that specializes in tacos that are made from this slow cooked beef, and it's served with this really hearty consomme, so really hearty beef broth, and you eat it by dipping the taco in the consomme. And I love this taco truck around town. And so if you're coming to town, I'm going to find out where that taco truck is, and we'll meet there, and we can have some birria tacos.
All right. We're dipping tacos now. That's new, but I'm open to it. I'm open. If Margaret's down, I'm down. All right, Margaret, thank you for hopping on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with us. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Margaret, any final words before we get out of here?
Thank you, Joseph. You're doing amazing work. I love your podcast. And
thank you.
So just a shout out to all those public works professionals out there.
Good stuff. Good stuff. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in.